Okay, so if you'd like to try this experiment at home or at school, you're going to need a few things. And if you'd like to try it at home, please make sure that you have permission from an adult or you have an adult with you. Now, first of all, you're going to need a clear container, and it doesn't have to be quite as big as this. Here's an example of one we've used in the same experiment before. Okay, so ideally your container will be as clear as possible, reasonably tall and narrow in comparison to its width, and the bigger it is, the more of everything else you're going to need. So anything like a storage box or a fish tank, that could work. You're also going to need a gate, which I have just cut a piece of plywood to the dimensions of the container and added gaffer tape around the outside, and then that fits in and forms a sort of seal and just manages to block off one side of the container. You're also going to need salt, and just normal table salt's fine, and two different colours of food colouring, ideally the liquid food colouring. So we used red and blue to make a third colour, purple, and we needed twice as much blue as the red. And you're also going to need something to be able to mix and pour salt water, so something like a jug and a spoon. Now for our experiment we've got a very big container, so we actually needed a bowl because we needed a lot more liquid. Okay, so once you have everything, you're going to need to put some warm water in your container. Now for our experiment we had it about half full, so around 10 centimetres, maybe 12 centimetres, and that allowed you to see the different layers. Now the water doesn't have to be boiling hot, but just reasonably warm, and the warmer it is, the more effective the experiment will be. So next up, you're going to need to make some cold, salty water in your pouring container. So ice cubes in water, and pour as much salt and mix as much salt as you possibly can to make it as dense as possible. Now the colder and the saltier this is, the more effective it's going to be once it goes into the warm water. And finally, we're going to need to make this cold, salty, dense water red with the food colouring so that we can see it when we add it to the warm water. Okay, so for this experiment, we had about 6 to 8 times more warm water in the container than the red water that we poured in. But depending on the container that you have, you may have to play around with the different proportions and trial it a couple of times. First of all, you need to put the gate into the container to block off approximately a fifth of the water in the container. Form as tight a seal as you can on the bottom and the sides of the container with the gate. Next, you need to pour the cold, salty red water into the small blocked off area of the container. Try to do this as gently as possible, but reasonably quickly. You could try pouring onto the gate to avoid excessive water movement. There may be some red liquid seeping beneath the gate. Don't worry, just try to keep it to a minimum. Once all the red water has been poured, carefully lift and remove the gate. Now watch as the cold, salty water forms the bottom layer in the container. Pay attention to the movement of the water, the internal waves, and the mixing between the two layers. When the water movement has stopped and the layers have found an even level in the container, put the gate back into the container to once again block off approximately 1/5 of the water. Again, form as tight a seal as you can with the gate. Give the water in the small blocked off area a good stir so the salty red layer and the clear warm layer are well mixed. Pour blue food colouring into the mixed water until it becomes a dark purple. The darker it is, the more visible the third layer will be. Give it a quick mix. Gently remove the gate once again and watch as the new purple liquid creates an intermediate layer between the red and the clear layer. A quick tip, the best way to see the layers is with the sun
a window or a light behind the container to illuminate the water.
I've done this experiment quite a few times, and every time I've done it there's been something new and different to see. So maybe the temperature of the water or the amount of salt or how it's released has always made an impact on what you actually see in the layers. So it's a great experiment to do more than once because you always learn something new each time.
Watch our Ocean Science section of episode 2 of The Ocean Show for a full understanding of what these layers represent and why they're so important.